Welcome to one of the region's best interview programs. I'm Mark Grimm of markgrimm.com, and this is the Siena Alumni Connection, revealing interviews you won't find anywhere else. This week, what it will take to bring local filmmaking to the next level. Filmmaker Mike Camoin on what you don't know about the local scene, and also his backstage coup at the Cannes Film Festival. Stay right here. Mike Camoin is a leading independent filmmaker and highly regarded within this region. He directed and produced Grazing Miss Albany, which is a story centered around a classic neighborhood diner in Albany. Siena's past president, Father Kevin Mullen, said the movie, quote, brings a Franciscan-inspired message to a wide audience, and in the process embeds Franciscan values into the minds of our young people. That's pretty good coming from the big guy, Father Kevin. Camoin also co-founded Upstate Independence, which is a network of filmmakers begun back in 1995 and is now home to more than 200 media artists. He launched Capital Cinema Cultural Exchange, CCCE, to support dynamic cross-cultural exchange through films. And why not? He's been a filmmaker in Russia, in Holland, all over the place. He was recognized as Best Local Filmmaker by the Times Union, Metroland, and the Upstate Independence Network. He and his wife, Linda, and their two kids live in Slingerlands. Welcome, filmmaker Mike Camoin.
Mark, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great. I followed your career because you're in there in the paper because every now and then we see, the filmmakers, because there's not a lot of well-known filmmakers in this area. But it seems to me we're doing more and more filmmaking if I follow the papers here and also in Western Massachusetts. Have you found that to be the case, Mike?
Oh, absolutely. In the last 20 years since we started Upstate Independence, if you read about a story related to an independent filmmaker, it's somehow tied to one of our members, Upstate Independence, the network that you mentioned.
Now, you co-founded why? Why did you start this?
Tom Mercer and I co-founded Upstate Independence because there was nothing here. There was no film program for me to take, not a 3-credit class to take. So we said, well, we better get out there and let people know that this is what we want to do and surround ourselves with people who knew more. And people started to show up, and it was really interesting. We were talking about Emerson College earlier, students that come from reputable film programs who live in the area but wanted to cultivate a film scene here.
Yes. And,
we started in Mother Earth's Cafe, and now we meet monthly, the first Tuesday of each month at the Linda Norris Auditorium, 6:30.
That's
that other radio station. Yeah, okay. WVCR, yeah.
AMC, that's right here in Albany there.
Yes.
That's a nice little facility there.
It's a very nice.
People haven't been there. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, this is exciting. People dream about film. They dream about being in films and making films. When did you start dreaming?
Well, I'll tell you, I was a student at the State University of Albany, UAlbany.
They've changed names 6 times.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember it was Albany State. So, yeah.
Yeah. Strangely enough, I was behind a camera earning my master's degree in the School of Social Work, Social Welfare. And I was interviewing a sexual perpetrator. And I discovered in replaying the tape, I was one of the few students who interviewed and recorded my clients. And I learned so much by watching it over. I don't know if you ever experienced that, but when you play something back, you realize, oh, my God, I missed that. I missed when he said that.
Yeah.
And I missed his body language. Yeah. He spoke so much. It's then that I got I was just captivated by
emotion. So the
motion.
power of the visual captivated you, and you said, I want to do more.
I had to get behind a camera. Got a camera. When I graduated, I moonlighted. I was working for 6 years in social work, and I was producing my first documentary.
Isn't that the story of all independent filmmakers?
It is. You got to break in somehow. So
and you have to pay the bills.
Yeah, you just got to go do it.
Yep.
Yep.
So how did you? So you said, I got to get into films. Where did you get your ideas for films?
My first subject came to me about the same time I got my camcorder in '92. My first subject, I met him on New Year's Day of 1993. Jack Ledley from Speculator. Population 300, about less than 2 hours from here. Yep. And he was just a riveting subject. And 4 years later, in about 60 hours of footage, I edited my first 1-hour documentary. And I realized that I learned by taking courses after the fact that I beat the odds that it usually takes about 6 to 7 years to produce a documentary. Mm-hmm. And in that time frame, people's lives change over that 4-year that arc. And so he went through a major crisis, and their family opened up about this over 100-year-old honey camp that they had way back on private land that was sold to the state, and it was lost. And I just saw that this was just was kind of like wearing two hats. I was a filmmaker, but I was also a social worker, and I was just getting deeper into the story and the history, and realizing that this window of history was closing. And I thought this is really important to stay with it and to document their story.
Are you most known for Grazing Miss Albany, would you say? Or
Well, Grazing Miss Albany, I think people know it as the longest running movie that has yet to be completed. It's actually out there as a short film called Relax. And it's something that my company went over to the RPI incubator and was one of the first feature film companies there where I learned to pitch to investors.
Sure.
And so I think a lot of people know about Room GO3 Films and Grazing Miss Albany, and they've, we're all wondering when is it going to be finished. But as we know, and we hear stories about film, sometimes they take 20, 30 years.
Why is it not this longest running movie yet to be completed? Why is it not completed?
Well, I'll tell you, we ran into a problem here in the Capital Region, and that is that there was a couple of films that didn't pay their bills, that had some problems, and led to them being stalled. Those stories hit the papers, and that was about the same time we were pushing forward with Grazing.
So that freezes the money up.
It put a wet blanket on the investment, and I understand independent film is a high-ticket priced item.
High risk. It's high risk.
Yeah, it's high risk.
People get into this, because they want to be in films. It's not the best place to put your money necessarily.
Right, but neither is a horse.
That's true.
But there's in this region, people are interested in investing in horses.
Yes.
And I happen to be doing a reality series called Survival in the Sport of Kings.
Oh, good.
Which is about horse racing. But people will put money in horses, 50, 75, 100,000. They're less reluctant to put it into film because we're still a region that's learning more and more about this industry and saying, okay, should we do this? And, and people talk, and that's how people get other people involved. So things kind of went sort of one way with these other films. We're doing things differently. We're putting money into an escrow. So we don't go out and spend it in advance until we raise all the capital.
Okay.
So it's a little bit wiser. It's a little less risk.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things you mentioned, Capital Cinema Cultural Exchange, CCCE or CCCE, that was born out of sort of this problem that we didn't want to see as a network. We didn't want the investors to it's going to dry up. The pool of money would dry up very, very quickly, and people would stop investing. So we created this Filmmakers Lab, which is modeled after Rotterdam. The Rotterdam is a 42-year-old lab in Holland.
Yes.
So going back to the Dutch roots of our
Schenectady County suburb. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
A little bit further.
Yeah.
And it's in a lab where filmmakers learn about the importance of story, importance of casting, importance of marketing, putting together a solid budget, and making sure your investors are protected. And so I started that lab last year as a way to sort of get through, getting the hoping that the region would get re-energized about independent film, and whether it's short films or longer feature films. I think there's all these stories can help cultivate a base of talent, which I think there's a lot of listeners out here that have wondered, geez, I'd like to get into film. How do I do that?
Well, how do they do it?
Well, they can come to Upstate Independence, a monthly meeting.
It's open to everyone interested in filmmaking?
Yeah, I think there's a nominal dues of it's $5 a meeting or $30 for the year. They can also find it online at upstateindependence.com.
Because a lot of people may not even be aware of this. Because there are a lot of people who are interested in film.
You're right,
There is that
Mark.
allure. There's no question about it. And some just don't know where to look. And
Right.
They may not be aware that we have a pretty mature organization here that's been, in large part to your efforts, that they can come and visit and learn a lot more about it.
There's a lot of depth. There's a lot of skill. And a lot of people are willing to help other people. That's how it survived.
Yep.
We're going to be celebrating 20 years in March 2015. So we're looking forward to that. And that'll be the second year for the Filmmakers Lab. Groups like yours, the Talent Guild International, I think that's, something that many people may not know about, but it's specific for actors and voiceover talent. And, and I just got a call today from a guy who's saying, who can I talk to about voiceover? And so people know us as artists. We connect other artists to other, resources. And that's the sort of the underground.
Yeah, it's a small business, a small industry,
Yep.
underground. And there's no reason why we can't make good movies with anybody else.
That's right.
We got talented people like you. It's just a matter of getting the financing, because there is enough talent in this region to produce some pretty good stuff.
Absolutely. And we're an area that has not been picked over in terms of locations.
Yep.
So there's still a lot of really interesting, unique architecture and settings, and diverse. You can go from farmland to mountains to urban areas.
Oh yeah, to lakes, the Hudson River. I mean, we have a beautiful area. I mean,
Absolutely,
this whole region. There's no doubt denying that, and 4 really strong seasons, so you could shoot for any season. If you're just looking to get winter scenes or spring or whatever.
Sure.
Yeah.
And the other reason why people are finding this area attractive is that in 2003 there was a meeting up here where we encouraged the film community to explore what was called runaway productions. Productions were leaving New York and leaving the United States. And in 2004, they created the first tax incentive. That, I think, was like a 10% tax rebate. That's now a 30% tax rebate. And in upstate New York, including Albany County, out to Buffalo and up to the Adirondacks, it'll be 40% in 2015.
No kidding. And that's a 40% rebate on what, Mike?
On what they call below-the-line production costs. So it's all your labor. It's
so if you're paying labor 100%, you can deduct 40% of that.
You have to spend
the
it.
people are getting the money. I mean, the worker's getting the money, but you can write off. You can get a credit for 40% of it.
You'll get a check back. It's New York is saying thank you for coming here, thank you for using our hotels, our restaurants, and hiring our people, and cultivating a base.
Well, that's big. That's a big deal. A rebate is a credit. That is to say, it's not a write-off. It's actually the actual money from what you described.
It's actual cash, and there's about 8 or 10 states in the United States that are competing for the film business right now. And that's because Canada and other countries were taking the film industry out of the U.S. So this is something that if we want to keep it here, it needs to be supported.
Certainly, yeah. So the financial incentives are there.
Yep.
And the expertise is there.
Yep. The locations are here.
The locations are here. The issue is how do we make it happen? And that is the question I'm going to ask you when we return. How are we going to make this happen? Because
I got an answer.
We have Mike Camoin is certainly has an answer, and I want to know because there's a lot of people interested. Not just on both sides of the camera. People want to perform. I run into people who want to be on camera and voiceover and all this stuff. So there's a lot of interest out there, more than people might think. And we're going to hear more from our leading independent filmmaker when the Siena Alumni Connection returns.
Mark Grimm, dynamic speaker, author of public speaking book, former TV news anchor, radio talk show host, media professor. Honored by peers as Entrepreneur of the Year and Trainer of the Year. With passion, insights, and training skills that will wow audiences, exceed clients' expectations, and inspire.
Every one of us has this inner power within us, and it's profound. But unless we tap into it, our life will not be what it could be. This is an opportunity to change your life.
Mark's speeches are fun and engaging. And his training seminars are guaranteed to deliver valuable takeaways.
Rule number 1, it's not about you, it's about them.
Right.
The speech is never about the speaker, it's about the audience. And that's what really speaking is about. It's delivering value to the audience.
Mark gets to the points. He gives you good information about preparation, about delivery, about those crises that can happen during a presentation.
That means at a funeral, the average person would rather be in the casket than giving the eulogy.
I think Mark has a great sense of humor. I think he brings his enthusiasm, and it's kind of infectious to the audience.
This was going to be the roof.
Mark is a former TV news anchor who worked in 6 markets, including Denver. The media often turns to him for expert analysis.
Live from Copter 4, this is Mark Grimm, News Center 4.
I also think it's very important to judge the media individually. So often we hear of media criticism as if they're a single block. The media is 1,000 voices. Many of them are average, some are poor, some are very good. So you really have to be fair. You have to analyze each one and judge them on their merits.
Having walked in their shoes, Mark knows how media think and act. So he helps clients catch the media's attention or provides damage control when needed most. Contact Mark Grimm today at markgrimm.com.
Welcome back to the Siena Alumni Connection. I'm Mark Grimm, motivational speaker, speaking coach, and author, and public relations specialist. Our guest today is, I think, when I think of filmmakers in this region, I think of Mike Camoin. I think a lot of people are like that. It's great having Mike with us. Mike, we said we have the locations, we have the talent, we have the tax credit. What it's going to take to explode filmmaking in the region?
Well, what's missing and has been missing for the past few years is, take a look at our seasons. We needed a year-round, the ability to film here year-round. So we've got some harsh winters on occasion, right? So what we need is a enclosed studio, a sound stage. Now, to qualify for the sound, for the tax incentive, the sound stage has to be 7,000 square feet, continuous square feet. So it's an open space.
Okay.
And
is there no studio in this region that's 7,000 square feet?
In my estimates, there's no dedicated studio. There are buildings that are qualified. The TU, the Armory over at Sage, other buildings throughout the region have been qualified. Most of the armories qualify.
Okay.
But they're not dedicated year-round, where we could house companies and organizations could all be in one location, because we talked about the importance
earlier. It's like
earlier.
having a stadium for an athletic team. You need the facility.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then people will realize, we've got an industry. Right now, it's as if we don't have an industry, but that's not true. We've been around for the last 20 years. You're seeing more and more filmmakers. You got organizations that
What would that mean if we had this facility? And maybe we can make it happen, Mike, through the powerful voice of this powerful radio station.
Yes.
If we did, what would change if we had that kind of facility?
Well, I think you would have just a place to house year-round activities for filmmakers.
So that means they could shoot more films if they had the facility. Would more films come here if they had the facility?
Oh, absolutely. One of the things that we're now getting into is it's really a fun place and a friendly place and an easy place to film here. That's what people are discovering. So that might mean that somebody downstate might be interested in bringing their television show upstate. And that would be neat. It might be neat to, I always thought a television series about the Capitol would be something that the whole country would be interested in.
Mm-hmm.
They hear about New York politics all the time. Let's do a drama about it. That would be really neat. We've got the architecture here.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. We Albany, Troy, and
we've got the characters.
Yeah.
They're so open to paper all the time.
It's just, we talked about it. We have the Hudson River and the beautiful lakes and all the Adirondacks, and yet a lot of historical stuff. I mean,
you've got
Troy
a lot of.
was the farthest point navigable on the Hudson River. That's why it was one of the top cities in the country in the 1860s. One of the richest cities in the country. Yeah. And Albany grew out as a base of that, but because so much traffic was shipped, that's why going the Hudson River traffic was why it was a big deal, and that's why there's so many beautiful brownstones in Troy. People had a lot of bucks and they built them.
And even to go back further in history, you go back to the early 1600s.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the early Dutch settlement, the Native Americans. There's a lot of untold stories, a lot of history here. If it doesn't happen here, it doesn't happen anywhere.
Yeah.
And so the founding of our nation, the first world trade connections took place here.
That's true. I mean, the American, the Battle of Saratoga, for heaven's sakes.
Right.
Right. The Battle of Lake George, which was a huge meeting between the French and the British. A lot of history in this area, and we have the sites for it.
Absolutely, we've got the sites, we've got the stories. What that drives is tourism, and so people tend to travel and follow where these stories come from. New Zealand with Lord of the Rings, they get tourism. People are following the trilogy, the series there. You don't know what would come out, but if you can get something like a studio here,
how can we make that happen? It seems to me there's a ton of money the government has, and they're giving these grants out all the time. They got all this economic development stuff now that's big. Not that I'm one to wholly endorse all this corporate welfare, but the reality is that seems to me like something that the government could do. Create a facility like that would benefit so many different aspects of our economy.
Yeah, I would think it would have to be some combination of government incentive and private investor. Yeah.
Well,
and you can add other things around it.
If there's anyone who can make that happen, aren't you the one, Mike?
Well, we put together a plan called Capitol Land Studios, and we thought it was a great idea. Downtown Albany would drive traffic. Actually, other television stations wanted to come down and be a part of that. I don't understand fully all of it. I'm not a real estate person, and so it's definitely possible. I think if people want to do this, I think we can pull together the right team to make something like this happen, and it would just be a job creater.
Mhm.
It's just a
Oh, sure.
multiplying effect.
But also, it would enhance our image, to be
Totally.
sure.
Right.
There's a cachet with filmmaking that you, of course, you understand that, adds a lot of, pizzazz.
I read I don't know if you may have read this too, but when Place Beyond the Pines came to Schenectady, they brought with them a multi-million-dollar budget film. It is an independent film, not a studio film. But there was 2,000 people that applied for a couple jobs, a couple speaking roles.
Well, that's
this is a reason that's really excited about the movies.
Yeah, we want more opportunities for those people, 2,000 people who are willing to stand there to be extras.
Yes.
I don't know. I wish you had maybe more to do in your life than to stand in line, but it does speak to the level of their commitment. They want to be in movies. And
Sure.
that's the glamour of it. And it's no reason that Hollywood or New York can grab all that. In fact, the incentives are such. There's more upstate because they want to spread the wealth a little bit.
Yes.
And not have New York City. Since these are state tax credits, they don't want to have New York City, hog them all.
No, I think the industry would love to see upstate New York participate more in the film industry. It would actually add more support for the maintaining downstate film industry and film and television.
You spent some time in Russia,
I did.
Mike, involving film.
Mm-hmm.
What was that like?
It was wild. I had about a week to decide whether or not I would go, and made the commitment. It was based on this short film, Relax, which is based on the film Grazing Miss Albany.
Mm-hmm.
I had met a filmmaker who came here to the Boston Spa Film Festival, Mikhail Kanev, and he invited me to show my film back in his hometown, Tula, which is our sister
So you
city.
showed them Relax
Yeah.
over there?
Yeah, this was
Which is
part
a shortened version of Grazing Miss Albany.
Mhm.
Did they like it?
Oh, they loved it. Yeah,
Did they have subtitles or what?
yeah they did. They subtitled it in Russia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had me come up on stage, and I learned a few words, spasibo, meaning thank you, and it was just great. I was, it's where you separate, and that's, again, the idea for the Capital Cinema Cultural Exchange. What the news that we get coming out of different countries, and then when you meet the people and when they embrace you, then you realize, wait a second, there's,
It's great. As you mentioned, this attachment to film is universal.
Yes.
Every country in the world, they want to be in films.
Absolutely.
It really brings us together because we have all these cultural and social and political differences, but everybody wants to be in the film.
But it's great. That's exactly right.
This filmmaking is storytelling, and from the time civilization began,
That's right.
parents were telling their kids stories.
That's right. Sitting around the campfire.
Yes.
That's really what it is to go to the theater, and the lights come down. You're hearing a story around the campfire. That's just how we do it today.
Yep.
And I'm still interested. I'm the type that's interested in these character-driven stories. It's about people, and not so much about blowing things up, and character-driven. You're really moved by these characters in some way, and sometimes it'll change your life.
Yeah, people. Yeah, when you see in them things that you feel and share. That's when movie making is at its most powerful level, as you say, as opposed to blowing things up. Yeah. Although those things make money, so they'll blowing up 2 and blowing up 3 are coming up next.
Oh, absolutely, they will. They definitely are coming. They just keep coming. But if we can cultivate good storytelling here and good visual literacy skills here, we can export our stories. And in fact, I got an email this week from a producer that I met in Moscow. I was at the Mos Film Studios. It's the oldest studio in Russia. And Dmitry Perkolov, who came to our city, Albany, earlier this year as part of the lab, showed his film, Expiation. He sent me an email and asked if would there be interest in young filmmakers making short films to exchange with young filmmakers over there who are making short films. I said, I think I know a few.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be neat? We and with the internet, boy, anything is possible.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. It brings the world closer together.
Mm-hmm.
You were able to sneak in backstage to the Cannes Film Festival, hobnobbing all these stars. Tell us about that experience.
Well, in my effort to get Grazing Miss Albany funded, I went to Cannes and took a number of meetings. Bought myself a ticket, but this ticket was not the red ticket that gets you to the closing night ceremonies. But I found my way through the building, and I wandered down
through a back door or something like that.
Accidentally through the back door. I was following this woman with dangling earrings. I knew she knew where to go. So next thing you know, I'm at the top of the red carpet And Forrest Whitaker is coming up the red carpet, and down below is the 400, 600 paparazzi. Flashes are going off, but I'm in the building. My ticket, though, won't get me into the theater. So to kill time, I go to the restroom. And while I'm in there, my cell phone's dying, my camera's dying. Everything. I was like, oh, man, this stinks. Well, there's Forrest Whitaker. He came in, and I was with another filmmaker friend, and we said, just go with the flow. So out Forrest Whitaker goes, out I go. He turns right, I turn right. He goes back down the hallway I came in. Next thing you know, I get past one more person, and it's just me and 6 other people. I'm part of Forrest Whitaker's entourage. We make a couple of right-hand turns, go down 3 steps. Next thing you know, there's a camera on him, and I'm in his shot, and that shot's being projected to the whole theater outside these walls. I'm backstage of the Cannes Film Festival. I don't know what to do. I start shaking. I think I'm going to knock something over. These palm trees and everything.
You started shaking hands. Who'd you meet?
Well, the ceremony starts, and Jane Campion gives out the first award. The short filmmaker is from China. He comes down. I hand him a glass of champagne. He's like, I'll never forget you. Mark, it's so funny because people started taking pictures of me.
Yeah. That's this allure of Hollywood we talk about. Yeah, that's what we want to bring to Albany. I mean, that's really what we want to bring to Albany.
Well, it's possible. When I'm standing there, I said, wow, this must be possible to be able to, to be there. And I don't know if you can relate to this, but one of my heroes is Marv Levy. I think he spoke here years ago. He always said, when you get in the end zone, act like you've been there before, and you'll be back again.
So he's that's former Buffalo Bills coach.
Yes,
Marv Levy. Yeah. Well, that's a good expression. What is it?
When you get in the end zone, act like you've been there before, and you'll be back again.
Okay. Yeah, that's a great way, and that's a great way to leave it because we are expecting big things from the film community, Mike, and you are going to be the leader, just as you have been, one of the key leaders in the filmmaking. And by the way, it's Upstate Independence. By the way,
UpstateIndependence.com, and people can also go to cinemaexchange.org. Our submissions for short films and for the Filmmakers Lab opens up October 1st.
Okay. So they can go to the website and find out about the meetings there.
Yep.
All right. Mike Camoin, independent filmmaker, our guest today on the Siena Alumni Connection. Thanks so much, Mike.
Mark, thank you.
The Siena Alumni Connection is directed by Darren Scott. I'm your executive producer, host, Mark Grimm of Mark Grimm Communications at markgrimm.com. Hey, knock 'em dead. And keep connected with the Siena Alumni Connection.